Welcome to the Tradies in Business podcast with your hosts Warwick Bidwell and Nicole Cox. Divert your phone and grab a brew as Waz and Nick unpack tips, tales, secrets and stuff-ups from guests both inside and outside your trade, helping educate and inspire you to break the cycle of gut-busting and money stress and create a true trade business.
Good morning, Warwick.
Good morning, Mrs. Cox. Good morning, Mrs. Cox. There's a segue.
Stop it.
It's a was segue.
Of course it is. You've just
Oh my
fallen
gosh.
straight. You just create these. You manifest them out of nothing.
I didn't even mean to do that one.
That was a good one. Well, nobody knows
business.
what we're talking about yet. We better tell them.
No one knows what we're talking about at the best of times on this podcast.
So
Coxie.
true, isn't it?
How you going, listeners? How's Rona treating you? Is she being kind today
Really?
on a Wednesday?
Is she ever kind?
Wednesday, the 8th of April, deep into the Rona. Might need to change the way I say that. Welcome to the Tradies in Business Daily TradieRonaCast.
Holy moly. I
With-
still can't say it. Daily
Waz and Nick.
TradieRonaCast. That's
Daily
hard work.
TradieRonaCast. I love a good tongue twister and a bit of alliteration.
Yes, you're very good at it.
And I've only had one. Oh, no, that's a lie. I've had 2 coffees so far.
Oh, I've only had one this morning. I'm saving myself for my 10 o'clock coffee.
Oh. So let's talk about time and teaching and teachers and homeschooling. Well, it's not actually homeschooling. They're calling it school from home. I don't know. Is that just a convenient way for the government and the private schools to still justify taking our money?
No, I think it's different. I really do think there's a point of difference
School at
here.
home?
I think currently we're all scrambling and stressed and worried because we think we have to teach the children. But in actual fact, I feel that the systems they're setting up mean that certainly my kids are teenagers, so I'm probably speaking from a different perspective to primary school kids or parents of primary school kids. But my kids will be signing into class every day. They'll be moving through their normal periods, their normal timetables, and signing in. The teacher will be there teaching them for each class. So I feel that that is school from home rather than homeschooling.
Yeah, I get that. I still, and we'll get on to talking about what we're actually going to talk about, which is, private school fees.
Oh, we've had this discussion.
You're paying for buildings and equipment and in-person teach. Like you're paying for a service to be delivered in a particular way.
Agree.
And now it's not being delivered the same way.
Mm-hmm.
I guarantee they're not going to drop their fees.
Well, I agree with you. We've had a big conversation about that this week because how is what we will have delivered any different than what somebody from a different school might be delivered? Are we not all now in an equal playing field?
Yeah.
Maybe
Yeah,
there's some different thought about that. Maybe there's teachers that listen that can let us know what they feel.
Because private school is no longer private school.
No,
Everyone's schooling the same way.
exactly.
The curriculum's maybe slightly different.
Is it though?
So a public school curriculum and a upper elite private school curriculum, are they the same teaching content?
They have to work to the same. I don't know the technical points, but or the jargon really, but they have to work towards the same standard.
Yeah, there's some baseline guidelines, I guess, around what's included, but I've never actually fully wrapped my head around because I'm a public school boy, and I've not ever really wrapped my head around the differences. But anyway, that's another wormhole in space and time that we should probably not go down.
Particularly because I get a little ranty on this one.
And we weren't even going to talk about that today.
I know.
I've typed up in our little chat thing because we are sitting about how far away are we? I'm going to Google Maps it and see
Can
how
you
many
Google?
kilometres
I don't know.
we are
2000
from
and
each
something.
other.
No, it's got to be further than that.
Yeah, it's further when you add in the Bass Strait crossing.
So maybe 2,500, 3,000 kilometres away.
So from my location to the Brisbane office, which I won't say on air in case you get hate mail or fire bombs through your front window or something.
People used to turn up to my house on a Sunday. They come for a Sunday drive and they obviously felt they knew me enough they could knock on my door.
Wow. no one's allowed to do that here because I get a $16,000 fine. It's a good way to not have friends.
Yes, it would be.
Welcome to Tasmania now. Get in your house and frickin' stay there. 2,180 kilometres to be exact, Coxie.
Wow, I would have thought it was longer than that.
That's by road and the straight line Bass Strait crossing, which is quite a distance actually. Anyway, there's a fun fact for you listeners. I bet you really wanted to know how far away Coxie and I are from each other. And you're like thinking, what are you two smoking at the moment?
As usual. Well, you are in Tasmania, so it's probably you, not me.
Yeah, I'm hoping that's legal down here, but I doubt it. They're probably more interested in the fact that I left my property to buy it than the fact that I'm actually, taking an illegal substance these days.
I would think so.
Anyway, we were actually going to talk about time blocking. So my segue has just been completely ruined with you introing as Mrs. Cox, the teacher.
Good morning, Mrs. Cox.
There's a bunch of listeners who are currently trying to figure out how on this green earth do they juggle, balance, fit in school from home, work from home, relationships from home, everything from home.
It's just
everything
home.
happens at home. Home is no longer home. Home is just a big melting pot for a whole heap of stuff.
Stress and frustration.
And a bunch of Facebook Book of Lies shenanigans as well in the mix. How the bloomin' hell do you juggle all of that and not lose your marbles?
I don't know if we can promise we won't let people lose their marbles. Maybe they'd like to lose their marbles.
Well, that's not our responsibility. So all the opinions expressed on this show are those of the co-hosts and not necessarily representative of your individual circumstances. But it did spark me to think that, we probably need to rethink the whole time blocking thing.
Well, can I speak from experience here?
Please.
I might
'cause I don't.
time block out 2 hours to do some work, and then I'm going to have a break. And that break might be to hang the washing out or to, I don't know, prepare morning tea for children or what have you. But I will get 10 minutes into that 2-hour block and there'll be a knock on the door. Mum? 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 Does that sound familiar? Have you heard that tale before? It is the most frustrating part of my day. So I've had to change the way I work. And I'm lucky I've got teenagers, okay? I can't complain. I have teenagers. They pretty well want nothing to do with me anyway, but then they'll want food, or the internet isn't going as fast as they would like, or why can't I go and visit my friends? I'm so bored. There's nothing to do. There'll be some point at which there's a knock on the door. It's not little kids that are maybe in every 2 minutes, but I've had to develop new strategies. And those new strategies maybe made me feel a little unsettled for a few days as I tried to work through them, because it's not the way I like to work. I'm a pretty consistent, constant worker. I can smash out a 2-hour block, providing I know there's a break at the end of the 2 hours. For me, that might be coffee, hanging the washing out, talking to the dog who doesn't talk back, or having a phone call with a client, or talking to a friend. But I just need a 10-minute break every period of time. So now I'm having to work in almost 15, 20-minute blocks before I'm being disturbed. So that's really weird for me. It's very different. I feel for the first couple of days I didn't feel as productive until I discovered something else. I actually wasn't being productive because I wasn't sure about what it was I needed to work on. So I totally changed the way I start my day. And this is working really well for me. So it starts before anybody gets up. I'm always the first one up in our house, and that suits me. I prefer that. I need that time to myself. But we have in the trade desk, we have the daily, I forget what it's called all the time, daily activity journal or the daily focus journal. I think it's the focus journal.
Yeah.
And that gives me an opportunity to sit down with my coffee before anybody else is awake and have a think about what it is that I actually really need to do today. And I can step that out in 3 steps. These are the 3 things I absolutely must achieve today. But but then it also gives me space to reflect on, well, who do I need to connect with today? Is it Warwick because we haven't spoken for a couple of days? Or is it a client that I know that's having a particularly challenging time? Or is it another one of our team members that I might need to lead through a certain exercise? Or is it the children because they're actually showing signs that they're not coping with the current situation? Whoever that is, I can pop that in there, and it keeps me mindfully understanding, okay, I need to work on those 3 things. They're the only 3 things I need to absolutely get done today. I need to make sure I connect with that one person who will not only enrich my soul, but I can help them through whatever situation that might be. And then I have a list of goals for the day. So other activities that I might actually like to get done if I get time to get them done, because a goal doesn't have to be achieved. You don't need to feel like shit if you don't get your goal ticked off, but it's a idea of something further I'd like to work on once I've done that 3 actual things I need to get done. So suddenly I have this list of 6 things to do and a person to connect with, and my 10 to 20 minute blocks are quite productive because I'm clear about what I need to get done. And I can sit down to my computer, I can sit down with my phone or sit down on our meetings and clearly get to the point really concisely and quickly without being disturbed. And for me, and everybody's different, but for me, I've found that's quite a quick way to move forward. I'm still getting done as much work as I always have done, even though I'm now being constantly interrupted. And it's because what I probably didn't realize before is I wasn't focused enough to immediately do the work previously, and I was being distracted by clients on Facebook or the group chat that I needed to monitor or the telephone ringing or whatever it might be. Those interruptions were still there, but they'd just become part of my daily life. And I hadn't really put together that I was still being interrupted every 10, 20, 30 minutes. It just looked a little different. I passed it off as work, in inverted commas. So for me, that's working really well. It's a different way to time block. It's still time blocking. I'm still blocking out 10, 20-minute periods where the doors are shut. Nobody's allowed to knock on it. Again, easier with teenagers than it is with really little kids. But perhaps there's something in that for our tradies and tradie wives. Maybe there's a way in which they're, you can find a way to knock out at least a part of your quote, or to answer. You've got 20 minutes to quick rapid fire communication with all your clients that you're meant to be working with, or you've got 20 minutes to design an email about what you're doing with COVID preventions at your work. Quick periods of time, if you really focus, can actually be super productive. Similar to the way you work, Warwick?
Yeah, I realised a little while ago, before this thing called Rona, that not everybody works the same way as far as productivity and time blocking and while you and I talk a lot about in the trade desk, particularly about how to time block, and we talk about, I suppose, the starting point for a lot of people, and first principles, I suppose you could call it, of time blocking. Everyone has their own sort of energy rhythms and focus capacity, and mine's pretty low. Oh, look, a butterfly. Hey,
Stop it.
I'll be back in a sec, Roxy. Anyway, sorry. So, but I realised from one of my teachers actually that I had been following for a while and consuming their content, and I'd heard this a bit and I read it and I thought, oh yeah, but the reality is I've got 10 hours of work to do, so I've just got to sit here until it's done, and that's what I'll try and do, and I just flog myself in front of the computer, not like that, but I would just, keep busting away with the work, and I'd get tireder and more frustrated and less productive, and it didn't work, right?
Of course not.
And then I sort of read this guy's post properly about energy cycles and time blocking and all that stuff, and I gave it a go. So what I did was actually not work, quote unquote, for more than 45 to 50 minutes at a time.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'd go take a break. And that break looked like I might go hang up the washing or mow the lawn or play with the dog or whatever. But I found that I was actually keen to get back for the next 40-minute block because I'd had that break.
Yes.
And I was feeling a little more refreshed, and I'd go back in. It's like, I'd have this idea, or I'd just be more productive, and that sort of became. Now it's my preferred method is just short bursts of productivity. It's the same for us on the podcast. We'll do a couple of episodes, maybe spend an hour, and then go have a coffee and a bit of a chin wag, or you might go stand outside because you're sick of the sight of me and you just want to get away from me.
I didn't think it was that obvious.
Yeah, well, with your back turned and your arms folded.
Stop it.
But that works really well for me, and that's not necessarily a method that works for everybody either.
No.
And so it's more about doing a bit of self-reflection and a bit of critical inquiry on, okay, well, what does work for me, the individual? What works for you, listener? What works for you as a method of working? I know some people, and we've had clients that 4 hours of just intense focus and work is how they prefer to do it. They just feel like they get more done. They feel better at the end of that than if they try and do 15 minutes of this and then take a phone call and then half an hour of that. But I also know some people that seem to work really well in that almost chaos mode of 70,000 things happening all at once, despite what the experts say about multitasking and doing too many things at once. I know people that just do really well in those conditions. They thrive on it. And so I think it's actually recognizing that we're all different. We're all individuals. We all have different rhythms that work for us. And then the important action is setting up your days, setting up your family, your kids, your calendar, your partner in these new times to allow you to work in that way.
Can we touch on something that I'd really like to acknowledge on the podcast? It's okay to put your kids in front of a screen for a bit. It's okay to put your kids out in the yard to play for a bit while you work. It's okay to do what is necessary so that you've given them some attention, but you've also gotten some of your work done. I think there's a lot of pressure at the moment on parents to be teaching their children, to be educating their children, to be making sure they have these full, wonderful days. And then they're feeling really beaten down because they're getting to the end of the day and their workload is just ever increasing and they're not getting anything done. So I just want to say it's actually okay for kids to sit on the screens for a bit. That's okay. It's not a choice that you're making every day for the rest of your life. It's what you're doing right now so that you can feel like you've been productive in your own work life as well. It's okay for them to, they don't have to have a gourmet lunch. They don't have to have spent hours being educated by you as a parent. Those things, that pressure that I think a lot of us are feeling at the moment is in many cases a self-imposed pressure because, again, we're going back to the old great book, big book of lies where everybody seems to be doing a great job. I'm observing a couple of mums on my social media at the moment that are doing an outstanding job, but I'm not that parent. I can't do that. I've got work I've got to do. I don't actually like my children. I'm just here to guide them through life. I'm not going to sit down and teach them. As I say that, they're standing at the door smiling at me because my 20 minutes is up and they're looking for food again. But no, my point is...
Mum.
Stop.
Mum.
I hear it all day. My point is that we've got to stop expecting so much of ourselves in terms of taking care of our children. It's okay to be, you're still a good parent because they had a sandwich for lunch. You're still a good parent because you had to put them on the screen time for half an hour so you could knock out a block of work. It's okay.
And I read something recently about building resilient children. And I think the good old Rona is going to forcibly move some parents into a different headspace around all this stuff. And I reference Mark Manson's latest book quite a bit lately because I have recently finished reading it and I think it's a fantastic book. And he talks about this point in his book, Everything is Forked.
Not knifed.
With a Scottish accent. But it's this constant distraction from anything other than pleasure.
Yeah.
And we have all these things to distract us from feeling bored or sad or lonely or scared or worried. And so we go dive into social media for some distraction, or we turn on Netflix, or we go get a tub of ice cream or a hamburger or a bottle of wine or a packet of ciggies. And we've become a society of basically just distracting ourselves from anything other than pleasure.
Yes.
and comfort.
That's so
Now,
true.
that's his assertion, and I happen to think there's a lot of credence in that. And I see a lot of this happening with parents more out of, I guess, worry and fear that they're not going to do right by their kids, I think. As a parent myself, just to go on the record and say I am actually a parent. So I feel like I have some degree of qualification to talk about this, that it's okay for our kids to be bored.
Of course it is.
Like, that's normal. They're kids, right? Our job as parents is not to occupy them, as you said, Coxie, every waking minute of every freaking day
No.
with something awesome or educational or stimulating. It's all right to say, there's a piece of paper, there's some pencils, go teach yourself to draw a leaf. I'll be back in half an hour. If you come and interrupt me, there's no lunch.
You're not eating ever again.
But what's wrong with that? The kid's
Yeah.
not going to die, and holy crap, they might go look at a leaf and go, this is stupid, and stare at the wall for half an hour, but they'll soon figure out that, okay, well, that's not changing anytime soon. Now, most kids these days have access to gaming and devices and all that stuff, so they can occupy themselves.
Of course they can. And they do.
Yeah. But I think as parents, we just put so much pressure on ourselves to do what's quote unquote right or best.
Yes.
And in an effort to do that, we actually end up killing ourselves in the process, which is not good for our kids long term anyway.
No, it's not. And that extra mental load at the moment, we don't need that. And it's okay for you not to do that. It's okay not to be a perfectionist in this, ever, but especially in this time. It's okay to let them be bored. It's amazing what they can find to do when they're bored. Suddenly my kids are a bit older now, but I do remember going through school holiday periods, particularly Christmas ones, where they just go on forever. And they would get bored, and suddenly before you know it, they're building cubby houses out of sticks in the backyard, or they're making mud pies when they were really little. And, just give them some time to be bored. Give them a focus if you've got one, or don't. Both's okay. Sometimes you need to be selfish so that you can get through the day feeling like you've accomplished something, or you've managed to get through some task on your list. And then, to be fair, let's not beat ourselves up because we can't be as productive as we used to be. That's actually still okay too. I think you'll find everybody's in the same boat. We're just not talking about it enough.
Yep. And I don't know. I think there's been this incessant march towards this utopian family society, Facebook style life, the social media life. Everyone's trying to have the social media family where everyone's smiling at the dinner table and loving each other and talking about what they're grateful for today, and there's never any fights or upsets or sadness. And we talked about this on yesterday's episode where I spilled my guts about having bad days. Well, kids have bad days too.
Of course they do.
And in actual fact, we're doing them a favor if we let them be bored and let them feel like crap, because when they leave home, if we're ever allowed to leave our homes, when they leave home, guess what they're going to find in the workplace?
Yeah, of course.
They're going to be bored putting stamps on envelopes because that's their first job, or they're going to experience upset or disappointment or critical feedback. And if they haven't had any of that as kids, then they're going to crash hard when they either enter the workforce or university or a trade, whatever their chosen path is. So I think we actually owe it to our kids to teach them to learn to be part of our life rather than be served by us all the time. And look, I'm not saying this is easy, and my situation is different to yours as a listener. And, it's an area that can be quite controversial, Coxie.
Yes.
And, I'm here on this podcast to hopefully inspire you, listeners, to think a little differently and maybe take a step back and have a look at how much pressure you're putting on yourself and how this is working for you. lots of things have changed in the last couple of months about the world and about our family life and about our homes. So it would be ridiculous to think that you could make everything run just like it was before in the current environment.
Of course.
That's probably my big point out of all this. Things have to change, and your kids are going to have to change with that. So,
They are.
Yeah.
And the kids are really resilient. They actually bounce back from this stuff really quickly.
Yeah. My 8.5-year-old daughter she was very upset. There was lots of tears shed when she wasn't allowed to go to the pool anymore. She couldn't go to the library, one of her favorite places. She couldn't see her friends. She's pretty upset. She can't see her dad at the moment because we're in quarantine. And she's fine. She's outside drawing pictures of grasshoppers as part of her, school from home stuff. She's doing her times tables on FaceTime. She's adapting better than the grown-ups around her in a lot of ways, and just taking it in her stride despite her autism and some of the anxiety that causes for her. So, she's been a great, I guess, example for me of, well, you know what, kids are actually, as you say, Coxie, way more resilient and adaptable than we give them credit for, I think.
Absolutely.
There you go.
That was very insightful.
So time blocking, that was what that was supposed to be about. How the hell do you do school from home and all this stuff? Yeah.
Maybe we're just giving permission to parents to be okay. That they're enough. They're
and
doing enough. They are enough.
And to do it differently. Like,
of course.
If you need half an hour to get some stuff done, stick them in front of a television at the moment. Make it age appropriate, please. But first person shooter games for your 4-year-old,
not okay.
I don't think that's a great baseline. But anyway, value judgments aside, you're going to have to do some things differently. And you know what? We're all going to have to actually shift our standards and expectations in some areas. I think that's what it really comes down to.
I totally agree.
The beds might not all be made every day and all the washing done and folded and put away and all the quotes followed up on time perfectly and all the invoices up to date. Like, some shit's going to have to slide a little bit.
And it will. It's quite natural in a time like this. Let's not overwhelm ourselves with our own expectations.
Yeah. So there you go. Coxie and I give you permission to just let it all hang out. Anyway, so another place to let it all hang out, Coxie, is
in the group, in the Facebook group.
The Facebook group. There's nearly 1,600 peeps in there.
It's getting very busy and exciting. Lots of great conversations in there.
I can hear the work, the fatigue in your voice sometimes, Coxie. It's like, it's getting very busy. It's like, how on earth do we keep up with 1,600 people conversing in a group? And I got to say, Coxie, you do an amazing job.
Thank you. That's kind.
Of keeping in touch with people, of staying on top of conversations. I'm very, very grateful to have you as my partner in crime here at Tradies in Business.
Thanks,
I think
Warwick.
you do a fantastic job of supporting our members. So
I think that we're very fortunate to have a group of members that are very overwhelmingly positive and looking for help. They're not there to bash each other or, be bullies. They're all really nice. Makes my life a lot easier.
It's really great to see. And, there's the odd Wally in there that spams or says dumb stuff, but Mummy Shark here is all over it. So,
snap.
But no, we just want to protect the group and the culture of it. So, if you haven't found the group yet, go to the Book of Lies, which is my favourite name for Facebook, and hopefully they don't shut me down for saying that.
Careful now.
We love you, Mark. I bet Mark's making some cash at the moment.
I bet he is. Can you even imagine that? Now, there's a business that didn't need to pivot. They've been waiting for this to happen, really. It's amazing.
How much money do you reckon Mark's put up for, helping out the whole COVID thing? I haven't heard any news stories about that. Just saying.
I haven't looked, but no, good point you make.
Anywho, so
Come and find us in the group on Facebook.
come and find us in the
Say hi
group
to
on
Mark on the way.
Facey. Yeah. G'day, Mark. You're a champion. And join 1,600 other trade business owners, hanging out with Coxie. I'm in there sometimes, making a token appearance, and a bunch of other peeps who are freaking awesome. Now, in that group, you will find some sneaky tradiepreneurs hanging out in there. Some of our one-on-one coaching clients are in there, so you can actually tap into some of our rock star clients. There's a bunch of our trade desk members in there. Our drawing board members are in there. So it's not just a bunch of people in a group. There's actually a whole crop of our clients are in there as well. So, and most of them are only too happy to share their experiences and answer some of your questions as well. So
yes, they're all very generous.
Now, there is one catch to joining the group, and that is that it's free.
I know. That's a terrible catch. Isn't that shocking? I don't know how people cope with that.
Yeah, it is free, and it will be, should I say forever free, Coxie?
Yes, it'll be. No, it'll forever be free.
It's always free. We really started this whole gig because we wanted to create a community for trade business owners. And that's our place to run it. So get in there, be a part of the conversation, and figure out how to time block and let the kids be bored.
We can all have a bit of a chinwag about how we're feeling about children this week.
Have a happy hump day. Yeah. Have a happy hump day, and we will be back tomorrow with another episode of the Daily TradieRonaCast.
Except today isn't hump day because there's only 4 days in this week.
Oh, so what do you do when Wednesday's not a hump day?
I don't know. You miss out.
It's just Wednesday.
It's a humpless week.
It's a don't dash my hopes, Coxie. You just snorted. That's awesome. I think we should end the episode now.
Bye.
Bye, listeners.
You've been listening to the Tradies in Business podcast with Warwick Bidwell and Nicole Cox. Find out more about today's guest, tools for your trade business, and other cool stuff at tradiesinbusiness.com.au.